Hello friends, welcome to the special episode of Let's Explore with Ashwin Cherkal. I'm your host and host Ashwin. Guys, the impact of coronavirus has continued to disrupt the lives of people on a global scale. While the attempt to contain the spread of the deadly virus continues, there's yet another possibility of a second wave that looms over the world. However, while the attempt to develop a clinically approved vaccine is still underway, it is first important to understand the risks of a second coronavirus wave and measures that you can take to avoid it. So let's see what our experts have to say.
Hello everyone. With the pandemic going on, we do expect a surge in the COVID cases. If you see the countries, the European countries, UK, they're all heading out towards a second lockdown. So are we going to have a lockdown or a COVID surge in our country? We'll just try to analyze. Now, why is this happening in these countries? It's basically because of the fall of winter. Now with the drop in temperature, this favors the growth of the virus, the transmission of the virus. All of us know that it's basically the droplet, the viral droplet, which transmits the infection. Now in summer, what happens is these droplets get evaporated in whatever fomites they are, maybe a doorknob or any surfaces or a table or a chair. These droplets gets evaporated. But with the fall in temperature, this does not happen so, and thereby a fall in temperature, especially in the winter, predisposes for an increase in the spread of these viral infection. It could be with any virus. You see a surge in influenza, you see a surge in COVID virus. So what do we anticipate in our country? Now already in few of our states, especially Delhi, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, there is a sudden surge in the COVID cases. We were all happy that we had flattened the curve, but we are seeing a spike in the COVID cases. Now, what are the contributing factors for this? First and foremost is the drop in temperature. North has a severe winter when compared to us in the south. And I said with the drop in temperature, the viral transmission increases. So the more people are gathering in a place or in the house, lesser they go out, so the risk of infection increases. Second thing, with the festivities around the corner, there's a lot of people mingling, going on for shopping spree. All this is added on to the infection. Third one is the attitude of the people, that somewhere they have fought a battle against COVID and they have won it, and somewhere they have lost the morals or the etiquettes that they need to follow whenever they are in a public space. Now all of these have contributed to a surge in COVID cases. Now how, or rather what can we do to prevent a second surge or a second wave? Definitely our country cannot afford a lockdown because of a lot of economical reasons. Now how can we save our near and dear ones, our children or maybe the elderly in the family, or in total how can we avoid a second wave? So I have put forward few of my views with respect to this. So I have come down to 6 very important points which I feel personally can help us to avoid a second wave. First and foremost is to get rid of the complacency. Now what I mean by this, as I said earlier, the battle is not yet over. There is nothing for us to rejoice. Some people do have a false sense of happiness that the battle is over and they have achieved victory against corona. That is not so. People have to change their attitude when it comes to COVID, and they have to follow certain norms. So we have to get rid of this complacency. The second most important thing is we have to restrict movements, rather unnecessary movements has to be restricted. Definitely with the period of lockdown, there has been some kind of a a urge in the people to go out, to mingle with people, to socialize, to go in for gatherings, celebrations, resorts, hotels. Now all this has to be restricted. This can happen, but has to be restricted in a regular manner. Government has set certain norms, and these norms have to be followed. The third important point is to reduce the gathering. As far as possible, try to reduce the gathering in whatever festivities or functions. We need to reduce the gathering and follow the norms set by the government for these things. The fourth important point is testing has to increase. So if you see in most of the states, the testing has increased, they have geared up, and we as public have to join hands with the government when it comes to increase the testing. Fifth point, once the testing has happened, quick contact tracing has to continue. So contact tracing has to continue once the testing has to be done. And again, for this, the government needs to gear up, the government machinery, functionary, and we as normal citizens have to contribute and cooperate with the government officials when it comes to contact tracing. And the final and the most important thing for us is the personal protection. Personal protection that we were using till now has to continue. It could be a mask or a face shield or a hand rub and the social distancing. These things, these basic things have to continue. Definitely there is a silver lining in the cloud, that is the introduction of the COVID vaccine. It would be only in early 2021 that the vaccine would be available for the general public. But even after the introduction of the vaccine, it is important that these things, that is the face mask, the hand wash and the social distancing, has to continue for a certain period of time to protect us all from the COVID second wave. Word regarding vaccination when it comes to our near and dear ones, especially the children. Now, in the quest for COVID vaccine, we are forgetting certain other important vaccines. Two important vaccines as a pediatrician that I would recommend. Not only me, the Indian Academy of Paediatrics recommends this vaccine. That is the influenza vaccine, and the second one is the pneumonia vaccine. Now, these two are very beneficial for the children and the elderly, especially during this time of winter. As I said earlier, influenza also has a surge. Influenza also a virus, and there is a surge in influenza cases, especially when there is a winter downfall. And influenza is clinically very much similar and rather difficult to differentiate when it comes to COVID. So there is a WHO recommended strain for influenza, which is a seasonal vaccine, and these vaccines are recommended to children as well as elderly. Similarly, there is a pneumococcal vaccine which can help us to reduce the incidence of pneumococcal pneumonia, otitis media, that's a middle ear infection, and even infection in the brain. Lastly, I would like to mention something about COVID vaccine. All of us are eagerly waiting for the COVID vaccine. And we see a race between different multinational companies for the COVID vaccine. Now, of late, there has been a lot of news regarding the efficacy of a vaccine. One company claims that there is 90% efficacy, while the second company claims there is almost 95% efficacy of the vaccine. Now, I would like to mention two important terminologies with respect to this vaccine. The first one is the efficacy of the vaccine. The second one is the effectiveness of the vaccine. Now, till now, what has been in news is the efficacy of the vaccine. Now, efficacy of the vaccine could be around 90 to 95%. Fine. But what concerns me is the effectiveness of the vaccine. Now, effectiveness of the vaccine will be known only when the vaccine is used in the community at large. Now, if I give a best example for this would be whenever we buy a vehicle, we check on what mileage the vehicle would be giving. If you see the ads of these vehicles, the companies claim that this car would be giving a certain mileage. But when the vehicle comes on road and when we drive it, we do see a change in the mileage that we do get. Now, this is the difference between efficacy and effectiveness. Now, the efficacy would be in a controlled environment, while effectiveness is what we should be looking for, which would be known only when the vaccine would be given to a public at large. So till then, we have to keep our fingers crossed. Let's hope for the best. Thank you.